Escapade's Island. Okay. Okay. As you can hear, the Goonies are an enthusiastic bunch who never say die. And they've come here to join me today to tell us a bit about their lifestyle and what they do. Now, quite a lot of Goonies don't use voice. So I'm going to do the speaking for them like I did last night with the Tinies. If people want to use voice, go ahead. But if you prefer not to, just type and I'll read out your words. Okay?
Okay. I guess you got the name wrong. It's Escapades.
Escapades. Like okay, Escapades. Okay, Escapades. Right, so can you tell me, let's start off, tell me something about Escapades. What is Escapades Island? Tell me something about Escapades Island. Right. Flo tells me that it's an island. Yeah, I think.
Full of adventures and still being added adventures.
It's an island where all the kids live and it's full of adventures. Can you tell me something about... Loki says it's a piece of nostalgia. And you fight against monsters there, Flo says. So tell me, why do you say it's a piece of nostalgia, Loki? I don't think it's because Loki's emo. And people find the very suggestion of that quite funny. So there's lots of giggling.
I think, yeah, it started out as a hangout, and we used to live at Nemo Beach on a Zim, with a very small place there. Then grew up into a bigger place. Well, and now it's a whole island for over 2 years now.
Right. So you started off with a small place on the beach and it's grown. How many Goonies are there? Roughly. Does anyone have an idea how many they think there are? People are clearly thinking about this at the moment. Okay, so people are saying that Joe Yardley suggests that kids can't count. Loki says, or they're waiting for the group stats to load. So there are quite a few. I mean, we've got quite a few in the audience here today. Do we have... are the Goonies just boys or are the girl Goonies as well?
Oh my god,
So there are
it's
girls
girls,
too.
boys, tinies, even animals, if I'm right.
There are tinies and animals as well. Well, we can see some dogs here. Are those Goonie dogs? Actually, one of them is our camera woman, so...
Oh yeah, and a teddy bear.
And a teddy bear. So there's a whole range of different people. Do many of you have other homes as well? Because I think I've seen some of you in New Babbage.
Indeed.
Go on, Max. Okay, I'm going to read out what people are saying. So, Gadget said, yes, some of us are urchins too. And Muggins says, I live on my own island sometimes. Loki says, I think they just follow me around everywhere. Flo says, Gadget says that lives in, are the urchins in New Babbage. Flo said someone did some investigative research. Max is trying to get voice to work. Everest says some of us are in Old Willowdale too. And Myrtle says she only has her windmill on Escapades. Nat says it's really awkward when he goes to the ballroom. Ricardo says only use some small parcel from someone on mainland. It's more for room, some building. Yeti says I don't live on Escapades, but I'm part of Escapades. And Max says there's some crossover between Escapades and Babbage. Babbage is a steampunk community. Bloodfang lives in a cookie jar, apparently. Trevor says I live in the hidden jungle on Electrobit City as well. And Max says many are urchins in Babbage and Goonies. And Joe says that some of these shorties come to Berlin as well now and then. Jimmy says I have a house in the future, but no one knows about that. Ricardo says my main home is now on Escapades. Gadget says I'm not going to read that, Gadget. Gadget said ice cream is on me. I just want to hear Miss Saffia say that. Okay, so it seems, as Tepic says, we are everywhere, and steampunk is good for making tea. Loki says that actually Escapades has a story behind it, and I hope we're going to hear that story. So people are pulling together now, I hope. And Max thinks the voice is working, so hopefully Max will be able to say some things. Gemini says some of us are Goonie separatists. Once we've established what Goonies are, Goonie separatists, I'd like to know what Goonie separatists are. Escapades, what the place for kids to meet back in the day. Now the community is spread out a bit more, says Trevor. Nat says he just wants to tantalise me. He's not going to tell me at all. Okay, so no water balloons, not until the end of the conversation, okay? Right. So Loki says that Escapades was created by ancient creatures who made the island, and it's a place for children to escape the real world too. Originally it was called a place called Nemo Beach on a Simnane sunrise.
And everyone wore penny whistles and happy things.
Joe says it reminds me a bit of the Ready Player One because it makes me think of the 1980s. And yeah, I say no water balloons till after the interview, please.
Indeed,
Okay,
the
Loki
Goonies
says... Loki, hang on, I'll just read this bit and then you can say something. Loki says that you can meet these creatures on the island, from goblins to nasty lizard men. Yes, I've read Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, it is indeed a sort of 80s nostalgia too, because the Goonies, the movie, is from 1980s. So there's no surprise about that.
Right. So there are pirates and sky pirates and Glorb, who is a bad, bad wizard. There's the Grandmaster and the gelatinous cubes. So there's all sorts of things for the children to encounter. So Goonies actually comes from a film, does it? That's a name that comes from a film.
Yes.
And we've also got something else. I mean, Escapades always makes me think of The Lost Boys and Never Never Land. Is that also an influence?
Yeah.
Grandmaster keeps trying to disband
indeed.
the Goonies.
I think, it looks like
Oh,
it.
and the Sky Kraken. I'm really sorry I don't know the Goonies movie. And there's an underground base as well, I'm told, and the kids can fight with sticks and wooden swords.
Slingshots, not to forget the slingshots.
Slingshots. And there's a hidden ship too.
There
People
are
seem to...
items all around the island that are scripted to react to hits with held objects called bashables, and you can bash the bugs or the creatures that come after you using these sticks or swords or slingshots, gremlins. Yeah.
So you can
Even
fight them off.
pistols or ferns, or like you did in your childhood, you know. You took a stick and cracked the bad pistols and ferns and everything that stood in your way.
Exactly.
So
Actually, for some items, you can actually earn little gifts doing that as well, going through the adventures and bashing things.
Yeah, some do.
Muggins has said that Never Never Land is just a suburb of the Escapades. And Loki says, yes, the island for me is a complete mishmash of all the stories and films and myths I grew up with. And Joe says that the stuff there is amazing, and I agree with that. We've went over there to film a firework party, and I really do want to come back, by the way, with Designing Worlds and have some adventures there. Will that be okay? Can I come back?
We would be mortally insulted if you didn't come back.
Okay, right. So there's bashable items and things to do still growing on Escapades. It's not just a place for battling and bashing. It's a place, and I'm just scrolling back to see that, for building places, community, friendships, stories. And everyone seems to agree with that, really.
Oh,
but
they're
they
even a
also say I
gallery.
need to do some bashing. I will bring cake. It has been said that if I come back, I must bring cake. Yeah, okay, cake will come. I actually have
Cookies are fine
Battenberg cake. Battenberg cake is very important to any English Goonies. Okay. Loki says the crazy thing that being here on Second Life, I found that people from all over the world grew up with the same stories, films and myths. Okay, so we're having requests for cookies, Earl Grey tea. There should be a checkpoint for adults where they can only visit if they bring cake. You can eat the yellow squares and throw the pink squares away too, Nat.
Adding to Loki's comment, I think a lot of it also plays into our childhood fairy tales that we were told and stories that we were told and so on. And just childhood sort of imaginative adventures. Imagined adventures, rather.
Absolutely.
I think it's
So,
a place of imagination and not only battles, but also to explore, just to walk around and be amazed about the wonders that are put there or can happen to you.
Blake says that Escapade is a place to let your inner child run free on Second Life. Loki says we compare childhoods also and discover the similarities we had, but also the differences. So, do you find you have more in common than differences? For instance, did you know that the characters in the Asterix books are all different names in different countries? No, I didn't. And Ricardus is saying to Claire that a neighbour sim did have a Little Rascals group in the past, but the sim and the group seem to have gone. And Everest says that people can run amok even if necessary.
Oh, the inner child, let it run amok if necessary. Means let out your anger and fear if necessary.
Since when does it, excuse me, does it have to be necessary to run amok?
I don't think it's essential, is it?
It was just funny, if in a funny way.
I think someone just run amok for the heck of it sometimes.
Some suggest, Joe says, I think all kids sort of have the same dreams as kids. And Flo says we've also had races with tugboats and steam trolleys, and I won them all. Well done, Flo. So there are fat orange goblins.
I think one of them just made a good point. That your typist's inner child that you're letting out.
Right. And it gives you a chance to be wild, be free, build huts, play. Nat says, exactly. I want to run a duck as opposed to running amok. Right.
Whack, whack.
Okay, it's like cupcakes, waffles, some root beer, and some really, really bad chicken wings. And Jimmy's got trophies too. There is now a competition as to who has the cooler trophies. So, okay, the Goonies is about being a kid, but it's also about having adventures. Do you feel that being kids having adventures is different to being adults having adventures? And I'm going to... Yitty says, for me, I've never seen these films, but I grew up with Tove Janssen's Moomin books and Astrid Lindgren's books like Ronja, Robber's Daughter, and Emil and Carson on the Roof. All these awesome stories full of imagination and possibilities, but not only idyllic childhood, the whole range. The scary times, the difficult times bring us together as much as the fun times. Joe says that I spent most of my childhood indoors in a big city. I dreamed of being outside and having adventures. So maybe I should try and experience that here in SL to make up for that. And people seem to think that this is a good idea.
She should. And it's Pippi Longstockings too, Astrid Lindgren, you know?
Yes. And
it's really a mishmash, like Loki said.
Flo said that adults can't have fun. They're too busy being boring. And Trevor says the kids' community is much more fun. And they're all agreeing that Moomins and Lingram are awesome. Right. Ricardo says you feel yourself better as a kid. Kids can and Ardy says kids can have more imagination. Adults have to be boring. Claire says she runs amok in Berlin. Okay. Total says, I don't know what adventures adult avies have. Okay, Infected, we won't go into where you kick adults. So, Blake says that our community revolves around adventures and fun. Adults all have drama, drama, drama. And and adults just want work, sleep, and boring stuff. We want to have fun. As a kid avatar, Trevor says, you can goof around and do silly things. Okay, go on.
I think one thing why I became a kid in SL was to be able to do goofy things and to do mistakes and absolutely stupid things, but not have to face too many of those consequences adults have to face, you know? As a kid you can do, like, run around and scream, and no one would really dare to say you're stupid or something, or even kick you out.
Get away with more, I think.
Indeed.
Loki says, I didn't create my avatar childlike because I wanted to be a kid. It just happened because I guess it best expressed my personality, which is imaginative, loves nostalgia, childish, and just want to explore. Itty says there's a freedom in being a child Avi. If I have a scrape on my knee as an adult Avi, people think it's a statement. As a child Avi, I can explain I fell out of a tree, and people just say, yipes, be careful next time. And Nat says some of us all meet up in London too. Oh, you ought to get in touch with the media people, because we all meet up in London too. Mind you, we meet in a pub and you may not be able to go in there.
Oh, we met.
Joe
actually,
asks.
We met up. Okay.
Okay.
Shall I?
Sorry. Yeah, go on.
We met up in London 2 years ago and had an astonishing an amazing time. Walking through London and in the end even doing a whole set of 2 hours at the Vortex at the same time as at some pub close to Tower Bridge.
That sounds fantastic.
The Vortex
So
is
we can't even be Goonies in real life.
Okay, let's... So Joe asked, do kid Avies get left alone or ignored more by other adult Avies, or are you more bothered? Trevor says, I started out as an adult as a super stewed, I'm not sure about that word, to ORPG games, and ended up on Nemo Beach where I met the first kids, and it was so much fun, and so I became a kid again. And Ricardo says there's a good one, Everest. Started adult, but got that got boring quickly until I met some child avatars, and that size just feels better, and it fits better. Itty says she's travelled from Finland several times to meet with Goonies, and that typists meet in a pub and went to the London Eye, and we totally go to the pub too, says Itty. Myrtle, okay. Good.
Of course, we go to pubs. It's no question about that.
Right, and Joe says that...
would see that.
Joe says that in the 1920s everyone could go to a pub anyway, so... But some of us don't drink, that's fine. Places in Babbage give us free booze. Okay, I will make inquiries and tell the mayor, yeah. And the assistant maceholder, not sure. Loki says it's changed over the years. Infected Frostbite says they attack us for being cool. I'm not sure who attacks you for being cool.
Well,
Loki
I experienced that for a long time. That I came to some info hub or other places and got attacked as a kid. Yeah, verbally attacked, even abused by people telling me to off, or even worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I was going to
I think this has changed about the last 2 years.
I was going to touch on that, actually. Child avatars in Second Life were not fully accepted for quite a while, and there was actually quite a controversy over it. Some people were saying some pretty, nasty things about us, about the adults behind the child avatars. For a while, Second Life was not really accepting as a community of the avatars, but I notice now there are quite a few child-friendly exhibits here, which shows that they really have started to accept us.
I think so. I think the attitude probably is changing, both to child avatars who are part of the family role play and things like the summer camps, and also the Goonies and the historical role play kids. And I know that there's crossover. I know that some of you will be going to the summer camps like Camp Hard Knock, as well as being urchins in New Babbage and doing all these sort of things. I'm going to go, if I can pause now and read some of the things that people have been saying, because it's all going really fast. Okay, so... Loki says, I think that kid abs are more accepted as part of SL now. And E.T. says, so funny, if you meet child abbies in real life, you recognise each other from our characters. I think being a child avatar allows true self to shine through. Joe says that I assume as kids you don't get hit on all the bloomin' time. Okay. And Flo says there are also disadvantages to being a child avatar in Second Life. You encounter a lot of discrimination. Exploring Sims, even G-rated Sims, sometimes isn't much fun because you get I am quite often telling you you're not allowed there. Sometimes it's frustrating. Jimmy says that I have a disclaimer on my profile about that I will report. Trevor says in all the games you play adults, so this was something completely new and you could finally let your inner child out again. Nat says, I never saw the point of Second Life until I found out I could be a kid, then it made sense. Muggin says I get on fine with most SL grown-ups. Joe says that, to be honest, I found kid avatars a bit odd at first, but then I actually took the time to talk to them, and now they seem less odd, just pesky when they try and steal my schnapps. Trevor says that lots of adult avies think that playing a kid like Avatar, you must be a pervert of some kind. And Flo suggests that some people like to bully kids. That's why we got to learn how to use slingshots and baseball bats. Right. So Loki says we gather each month to go on an adventure. Blake says that I agree with... Hang on, I'm still scrolling down to try and get you. I agree with Loki. I think it has changed a lot over the years. People seem to be more understanding and realise we're here for fun, to keep our inner child alive. Loki says we don't get much grief. In fact, lots of times are like, oh wow, can I take a picture with you guys? So cute.
If I can interrupt,
People are agreeing with that. Yeah, hang on. Could I just get to the end of this whole chunk of text? Otherwise, it all scrolls off my screen, and then we'll come back to letting you talk. Okay. So Claudia says, it's taken me many years to run round as a Jew, tried all forms of being, but my name gives it away. Well, Second Life is good to be, whatever. And Total says, I love to be a child avatar because it's so heavy to find the right shoes. Everest says, maybe we should let her catch up first. Thank you, Everest. Okay, Ricardo says, I never got much problems running around Second Life. And Infected Frostbite has confessed to Joe that it was he who stole her schnapps because he was really thirsty. Joe says it's all right, next time just ask. Okay, so Bloodfang says kid avies are the ultimate advocates for real life kids. Okay, there's discussion going on about taking schnapps, but we'll leave that. Okay. And pickpocketing in Berlin. We will leave that. Sorry, people wanted to talk, but now I've come to the end of what I was reading. Go for it, everyone. For 5 minutes.
yes, somebody had made a good point. If I can scroll back and find it again. It was that we're actually representatives as well for real life kids. And to that end, within the kid community, we have actually done fundraisers for real life kids who are less advantaged than us, and have raised funds for things like them being able to have regular holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving, a simple holiday meal and that sort of thing.
Maybe I can say something too.
Go ahead.
We had those evil floods here in Germany, which went through about 70% of my state. I'm in Germany, and where I am in Germany, and a little I'm just collecting donations for one. You couldn't do that as an adult. I think it's just not the same, and I got such a nice feedback about just collecting some money for a kindergarten, but it's really got hit really badly. Maybe I can tell read that of Gemini. He said about the Goonie separatists that they are a group of die-hard ex-Goonie kids who have sailed all the 7 seas and live on the outskirts of Goonie Island, generally not unwelcomed at Goonie Island. It's usually in their own mind that they are outcasts of the Goonie way. They believe there is little reason to end their adventures for the night and return to the outside of the world as normal boy or girl. One sec. Sorry, my alarm went off. Normal boy or girl, and having forgotten their life before Goonie Island, it is not common for us Goonie separatists to have a mother or father having dedicated themselves to non-stop adventure and freedom. They often initiate skirmishes to the current visitors and residents of Goonie Island, and they have also more than one time saved the Goonies from the death and disaster.
Okay, have I lost my voice? Is my voice back? I think I may have switched it off. Okay, I was saying we're going to hear from Loki what plans Loki has for Escapades. Okay, and you're all being very good, but maybe it's because my first job was as a teacher. And I taught 3 to 7-year-olds. So, okay, we are going to listen to Loki, and he's going to tell us about his plans for Escapades live on air. Loki says, while I share the island with these Goonies. Yes, we're going to hear these plans. And people are beseeching it. Loki says, it is mine, and I do work hard to make exciting and do new things with Second Life. I think we've seen that here with the bear moth. It's a wonderful exhibition here at SL10B, and everyone ought to go and see it. Everyone is agreeing that he works hard and makes some amazing things. That Loki is so awesome creative. And he says, yes, that is a taster of what he hopes to bring to Escapades in the future. Loki says, I often say what I plan to do, and it never happens because I'm always getting sidetracked with other things. Oh, you and me both, Loki. But Nat says he's a lean orange meshing up mush orange. We have the 3rd anniversary of Escapades in August.
I sure am.
And a huge new Babbage roleplay story this fall.
It's the Goonie Island means Escapade is about 3 years old now. But when I came to Second Life 6 years ago, the Goonies already were there. So the Goonies themselves are way older.
Loki says, and next year I hope to start on the roleplay stories using new experience tools and the storytelling you've seen here to make Escapades even more awesome. And we're discussing how far back Goonies go. The suggestions, it goes back to 2005, which makes it 8 years old, and that many came around 6 years ago in Second Life. Loki says it started with 4 kid avatars. And Jimmy says, yes, in 2007 a lot came in. Trevor says he thinks he became a kid in 2005. Loki says that he met people randomly one day and we went on an adventure.
Basically how it started out. Just folks meeting up and going on an adventure, not necessarily being Goonies.
Loki says as long as Second Life is still running, there will be escapades. And Nat says, even if it stops, we'll find a way. Yes.
Well, the Babbage is the same idea. It's just sort of people getting together to have little adventures, role-play adventure.
My goodness, Myrtle can say it in French.
Oh,
Except
she's
she's saying
bilingual.
ne pensons.
Is French. You can
Ah,
say
right,
that,
that
right?
could explain it.
He even says
Loki
it
says-
in Finnish.
Loki says New Babbage is a great example of how the kid avatars have been accepted by adult avatars. I know that we had kid avatars in one of the Babbage stories we do for Designing Worlds. And in that one they actually rescued people from a burning building. Loki says, as the Babbage community of steampunk find that street urchins are seen as a vital part of the Victorian atmosphere. Jimmy says the urchins run the place. Blake says, when I encounter someone interested in the kid avatars, I always take them to Escapades first. And Myrtle says the Babbage citizens would be very sad without the urchins. Nat says we probably also set it on fire too. Nat, why do I have the horrible feeling you're not speaking metaphorically there?
No, I think in Babbage it's almost always a mad scientist who sets any buildings on fire or blows them up even.
Okay. So Loki says that they did burn the school down. Yeah. Okay.
Sven
And
said something.
yes,
Sven said
interesting that
something very
surface sailors, pilots have accepted kid avatars too. I never had any issues there. And Ite says, has anyone mentioned all the characters living on Escapades who are simultaneously real and imaginary, like Mr. Doomsdale, the debt collector, who is an old man who is grumpy but quite sweet at the end of the day?
I just wanted to comment, if I could.
Mm.
When buildings
Can I
in
say something?
Babbage are no longer used, they're often, quote, destroyed or unlinked and made to seem like they crumbled or burned or whatever. I don't want people thinking that we're a bunch of pyros or anything.
Arsonists. Yeah, no, I Joe
Our way-
says that...
This is sort of our way of saying that building's done, something new will go there.
Yeah, they're clearing the ground. Joe
And
says that historical...
Lots of buildings in New Babbage have been built by kids even. Like,
Yes.
Stormy Stillwater or I don't remember the other name. Loki and others.
Okay. Joe says that historical roleplay sims really aren't complete without kids, urchins or otherwise. Gadget says we help the Babbage citizens carry their wallets and money and watches, etc. Okay. And Bloodfang says the Tinies even accept the kid avatars. And also a dragon. Okay. There is the issue of child labour. I think children have been used as labour in Babbage too. Despite Myrtle saying we don't labour, we just play.
Well, traditionally, urchins within Victorian setting actually would have been put to work. And we
Exactly,
do try to
yeah.
incorporate that to a degree without it seeming like labor.
Kids
Loki says
playing
that...
explain how they can crumble so fast.
Yeah. Yes. Loki says, everything I make and build is incomplete without my gang of friends. Nat is pointing out that Mr. Doomsdale is also a dragon. Joe is complaining that you make being a thief sound bad. Right. Jimmy said, a Gore chieftain once wanted to adopt me, of all things. Okay, the mind boggles. Okay, the Flo says, I do work hard every day as a painter, and I'm no urchin.
Gadget says the urchins were city messengers until the mayor introduced the vacuum mail pipes, and they suck.
They suck, right? Yes, Loki says about the labour thing, you guys better get ready to work end of this year.
So,
Okay. Jo is off. She says, sorry guys, I have to get to work. Awesome chat. And it has been. And Gadgets, Nat says it was a roleplay event. Really good one too. Okay. So their labour deals, Jimmy says, are being made as we speak. We are coming to the end of time here, I'm afraid. It's been enormous fun having you all here. And I just wonder if there's any last things you'd like to share with us. Okay, we know that Goonies never say die. I'm just wondering if there's anything else you'd like to share.
It's been 8 years with the Goonies in Second Life, and I think I'm okay to say it won't be the last 8 years.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm going to say, shall I book for Designing Worlds to come over and see you later in the year? Would you like to get together for a Designing Worlds show and show us all about the escapades and all the things you can do? Eating raises a very interesting point. She says she's sometimes in Babbage, but is a fairly strict roleplay sim. What she likes about Escapades is that they're all free to roleplay more or less. Weave stories, create new. Many stories about Escapades which might seem contradictory, but they're all true. And Jimmy says people should come and visit. Are you talking about Escapades, Jimmy, or Babbage? He says you'll see something amazing. Nat says 8 more years. And Muggins says we just get to be ourselves in Escapades. Nat says we're all playing ourselves, but also kids who are ourselves. And Flo says, if you come visit us, I'll show you how cool my trophies are. Good offer, Flo. Okay, can I ask one practical question? In the past, kid avatars, you've tended to have to make special kind of scrunched up avatars, a bit like, and resize. Are there now more kid mesh avatars? So are most of you wearing mesh avatars now?
I don't know whether you mean mesh shapes or mesh clothing. There
I
are
think
both
mesh
now.
shapes.
Okay, well, I think more and more people are wearing mesh shape. I think
Shapes
though
with mesh buddies.
I think though that many of them wear a regular shape with mesh clothing right now.
Right.
Mesh shapes are still tend to be rather expensive.
Loki says, I don't make kid mesh avatars. I just make clothes that fit better. The squished kind avatars. So most of us aren't wearing shapes, just mesh clothes with alphas. And E.T. says Loki is at the forefront of mesh design, which helps. Loki says mesh clothing can hide the nasty bumps. Sorry, someone said something.
I said I'm wearing a mesh avatar. Meanwhile, for about 2 months, and I think it's a better thing. I think because it's whole, you haven't to add any to have you know, you don't have these nasty the vocal.
For a child shape,
you don't have those nasty transition parts between the body and the mesh parts.
Yeah, and
for a child shape, you used to have to pretty much just try to shrink down an adult shape and try to reshape it into a child. And I think even a regular shape has gotten better in that aspect. It's much easier now.
It's a mesh body. It's not a mesh shape. The shape is always a kid shape. You can't put in a shape, but you can put on. You can turn the whole body invisible as an alpha and put on a mesh object that is rigged as an avatar.
Right.
Or as a body.
Gadget says you only really need to scrunch your body if you go lower than the SL lower limit sliders, but most of us using the SL shape on low size. And Jimmy says if you've ever sculpted one, you'll know why they're expensive. Right, that's the mesh avatars. As with Cody says, as with clothing, there are limited options on shapes and other stuff like that for kid avatars. Relative to Second Life at large, I mean. And Tepik says she does have mesh feet, because that means we have toes. Yes, that's always useful. And Nat says mesh hides our bumpy fronts and wings and lumpy wrists and ankles. And so a lot of it is personal customization. Jimmy says also, like everything else in SL, we only look as good as your lighting scheme. Flo says Quinton Unplugged is a great mesh body designer. Most Charles Avies wear his mesh shape. It's great. And Blake throws a paper aeroplane and watches it fly around the auditorium. Pick it up later, Blake, please. Total says I always try to look as good as SL allows. And Pukute says I love Loki's products. There is tickling going on here. Stop it. Loki. Someone says Loki is too expensive. Total. Ricardo says Total. We don't want to sell Loki. Nat says it's a lot different in family role players. Lots of little meshy kids. And Loki says it can depend on the age you feel most comfortable as. And Nat says, but we're older kids. And as the Bloodfang points out, as the technology improves, we all improve. And everyone is very pleased to have toes now. Nat says it's more like 8 to 13 here, not toddlers. Toddlers tend to be more in the family role play. These people aren't babies. And sometimes, so Loki's toes are clearly in high demand. Right. Okay, I think we will leave it with Loki's toes and bring this talk to an end. I will probably be doing talks at the Christmas Expo, there'll be a Christmas Expo. Would you guys like to come along to the Christmas Expo and do a talk there? Because it's really good fun talking to you all. And maybe we can get some gifts for you at Christmas. I am going to make one last attempt to res some cake. And if it is, you can all have some cake to take away, okay? But I can't guarantee that it's going to work. So, yeah, I think you're having a very bad influence on me. Okay, let's see what we can do with cake.
Maybe I could say something yet about the Goonies.
Yeah, please do.
The Goonies, I mean, it's not ending at the Zim borders, yeah. The adventure is everywhere. Just go out. We just go out and have fun.
Right. So the adventure doesn't end at the Sim border. Okay. Here is cake. Help yourself, please, as a thank you for being here today and all your hard work.